check for some reason.
Yep, looks good. Whenever you're ready.
All right. So I kind of wrapped my brain with what to do for this, which is really annoying because I feel like all year um, I'm sitting around seeing like projects on the internet or things my friends do and thinking like, oh, that would be really cool to do. I just wish I had more time, but now that like I have time to do whatever I could possibly imagine, I have no idea what I was going to do. So I was that the ideation stage took a little longer for me than I was planning and hoping. I even like went as far because my girlfriend's birthday is in like 2 weeks. I asked her like, is there anything you want me to build you? Because I will like build anything. And she couldn't think of anything. So I was kind of stuck on to my own devices. So I was listening to music and MF Doom popped up and I remembered, oh crap, he died like in October. And it just reminded me like how kind of crazy things have gotten swept up in this year. It seems like we're it's just one thing to the next. Um, and you know, he was young. He was like in his like late 30s, so he wasn't like an old guy at all. But he's like from New York, someone I listened to like growing up. Really got me into what what hip hop can be and rap can be like as like more of an art form and more poetry. So like he's had a career that spanned from like the 90s all the way to like, you know, he was releasing albums 2 years ago. So it's kind of cool to follow his progression and see like, you know, how he's changed and like how he's grown. And he's, you know, he's just someone who's like really talented. So when you like sit down and listen, you go, "Oh, that was clever," and I didn't even realize it. So it's someone who really resonated with me and like honestly was a big part of like my music collection, I guess my mental um, with that. And you know, I completely forgot that he had passed away in October up until like recently. But it got me thinking, you know, one of his most obviously like one of the most prolific things he has about him is the like mask he wears. So the mask is actually from the movie Gladiator. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that, but when he was starting to come up, become a little more popular, he wanted to be more of a character rather than himself, and that's why his name is Doom, because he bases a lot of his hip hop off of like being a superhero or a supervillain. Um, so it's not so much about, you know, his personal life and what he's gone through. It's a character that's like a superhero. So he bought the mask that was apparently really expensive to him at the time because it was like a movie replica and it wasn't like a Halloween mask that he could just get. And it wasn't supposed to be worn. It was on a stand. So he took it and cut it and like made it into something he could actually wear. And then, you know, basically in every photo he's ever had of like him publicly performing, he's wearing it. And it was also based a little bit off of like Doctor Doom from the Fantastic Four um, comics. Because if you look at on the bottom right, Doomsday, his name is Doom. There's obvious connections there. So I've always like loved the mask. I thought it was just like that like kind of perfect blend of like modern take on like old not clothing, but like just like a modern take on something old where it looks like it's like it could be futuristic, but it could also be like a relic of the past. And I think a lot of people also latched onto that pretty strongly. So if you ever look up like fan art for him, it's, you know, almost all the time based around his mask. And that leads to like some really unique interpretations of one, the mask, and like two, just like fan art surrounding that. As you can see, there's really the only common thread between all of these is the mask, but it captures a lot of like really different like art styles, and some are digital and some are, you know, parody. Um, and it's almost like the mask became more of a character than he did. I think some people will like know this mask but not have any idea who he is. So it's always something I've liked. It's always something like that I found visually appealing. It got me thinking like, well, I want to do a project with it. And you know, since he passed away, like a better time to like make a memorial for him. Because like once again, it just got so swept up, I almost completely forgot it happened. So I saw on like YouTube or something, someone had bought these like floating shoe um displays. And they're apparently becoming really common. I don't run in like the shoe circles at all, so I don't really know a whole lot about them other than it's a magnet and a light. And it's really simple, but it does create like a very like unique and cool effect that I'm gonna try and replicate with this. And then in tandem with that, the picture on the right is one of his album covers, and I was like thinking, oh, that looks like something that belongs in a museum. And I kind of amalgamated the two and meshed them together and thought, okay, well, what if I take this floating shoe design thing and like take his mask and almost like do the floating mask thing as like a memorial. So really like I guess the aesthetics of this, it was very like heavily inspired by like what you would see in a museum where depending on what you're looking at, you can have these like really pristine, well kept, like beautiful almost pieces of art that are so like encased and it's something where people probably don't care so much about the history of them, but how they look, it's almost like a piece of art. Whereas if you look at the photo on the right, you have these more like actually used, like battle worn, battle torn, excuse me, pieces in a museum. And while like you can't really compare the two things that I have up here, they both like tell their own unique story, and that was something that kind of the aesthetics I was going for, this like pristine, like clean museum look. And I think that's probably going to come in more so with like the stand and the lights that I use, but with like more of this battle worn, like weathering and tearing, that tells more of a story without like you having to read like a little thing at the bottom. All right, so I don't have a super in-depth layout for going forward, but I'm debating if I should 3D print the mask myself or buy a pre-built. I did like a mock-up based off of some dimensions I found online, and I'm okay with the 3D, how it looks, at least in CAD, but I'm still debating like maybe I could just buy a pre-built. I'm gonna get some acrylic, so it's gonna be, I'm not a good designer. I like have things in my head, and it's impossible for me to like actually like portray what I think it's going to look like. So I just kind of, I don't really draw a whole lot, but it's basically going to be base, acrylic, base, or like a top piece with a magnet in it. And then LED lights kind of along it just to make it look more clean. I am going to 3D print the base and the top just because I'm going to be using like custom sizes for everything. And I don't want to try and find a box that's going to work. Magnets, I am kind of worried about how I'm going to give it that like floating thing. Because if you look at the shoe, they put it in the shoe. So it's like there's a magnet in the heel, and then there's obviously a magnet in the top, and that could create some problems just based off like, well, if I don't have strong enough magnets, or if it's too strong, or like how am I gonna like keep it level? So that's something I'm gonna play with. But worst case scenario, I'm just gonna make a stand for it. And then it'll look more so like a museum thing than like a floating thing. And then I ordered some like LED strips that you can cut and use however you want, and I can change the lights on them. And then I'm going to use like an Arduino Mini because I have one, so it's easier to control the lights, and I might implement some sort of like noise, what's it called, some sort of like level triggering from like music if it were playing. So just my plan going forward, I'm either going to purchase or print one. Then I'm going to 3D print just like a simple black base, and then the top with some slots for the acrylic. Get the acrylic laser cut, which should be pretty easy. I'm going to put the LEDs in there so it looks like that like nice sheen, shiny, like clean museum type look. Put the acrylic together. Rework the mask. I'm kind of debating on what I want to do for this. Is like I showed you guys, there's a lot of like really unique pieces centered around the mask, or do I just want to kind of like make it look good? I'm debating on that. That would make it a little more personal for me, but not sure. I might come back to you guys on that for questions. And then I need to see if the floating idea will actually work. I want to make it work because I think it would look really cool. I just might have to get a little creative with it. But yeah, if not, I'll just do like a 3D base for the, or like a 3D stand for the base. But that's about all I got. Yeah. All right. Turn it over to y'all, I guess.
Thanks, Ben.
Very nice.
Oh,
I guess we will start with statements of meaning. I have one. I think that the background of this project is super, super cool. I love your like personal connection to it and how much this means to you. I think that's dope. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's super cool that, unfortunate that what Doom passed away, but really cool that you're like using this opportunity to like memorialize him since he had a really big impact on just your music in general. I also think it's cool that you're drawing in from like 4 different places, which is cool. Like the style of this guy and his music, and then you also have like a museum aesthetic of like very clean, pristine like display cases, and then also like sneaker culture of like how can I best show off this footwear that really is supposed to be worn, but not really because I'm just gonna display it. And then engineering with like the magnets and stuff. I just think it's really cool, like how many different things are combining together to make something that's gonna look awesome.
Yeah, I also have the same comment here. I like that you have an emotional connection to the artist and how you want to make an artifact that is kind of paying tribute to the artist. And I also like the levitating idea if that works out.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the whole homage to MF Doom and everything, and the background, but also I appreciate how you were carefully and thoroughly going through other artwork of MF Doom, like type stuff from other artists, seeing what they do, and like going through that, and like I can see like how you're using that to influence your own, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely draw a lot of inspiration from what's been done before, because there's a lot of like unique stuff out there, like that Charlie Brown thing. I had that on a T-shirt in high school, so it's just always something that I've enjoyed.
awesome. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I think I kind of alluded to it, but do y'all think there's any benefit to like 3D printing or just buying one of these? Because I can buy the mask pretty like $25 on Amazon. Are there like any benefits or like pros or cons you see to either side of it? Because I really don't have a great answer as to like which one to do at the moment.
Honestly,
s-
from sorry.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I think if you 3D print the mask, you'll have the ability to add features in case you're going for the levitating part, because you can have spaces or like specific made features that can hold the magnets. And if you buy it off the internet, you might not get that uh, uh, leverage of adding the magnets so that it would actually levitate.
Yeah, I do think that is one of the biggest considerations I have right now is like just how much I can customize it. Because if I can 3D print it, I can kind of do whatever I want. Whereas if I buy it, it's kind of
Right.
having to work with what I got. So yeah, that's something that I thought about too.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, but if you do 3D print it, you will get that like 3D print aesthetic, kind of like the layers and like the lines and stuff. So one thing you could do is buy some like really thin metal like plating or something you could just cut with like tin snips, and you could just cut out, because it's pretty geometric, you could cut out the shapes and like cover the 3D print, and that could help.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I was thinking like I would just like kind of work the like 3D printed thing, like because sometimes sanding will do it, sometimes like adding like layers of like whatever can help. Yeah, it's a good idea. I didn't even think about that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, big thing I think is like, I don't know if you're trying to go for like the metal aesthetic of the mask, because like I don't know much about like 3D printing, so I don't know about the materials, but if you're gonna do in plastic, I would, in my opinion, I think like finding like a metal mask would work better, but I don't know. But yeah, then there's the question about like customization, and you could definitely do that a lot more easier with 3D printing. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do like the metal look, but I think that was more so something I was going to try and capture outside of using metal. So
gotcha,
that
gotcha.
was my idea with it. So
There are a lot of like 3D printers that the Idea Forge has that are obviously higher quality. You'll just have to pay more. Like the ones we used for those cuffs on our project is not the Lulzbot, you know, so it's higher quality. But I was thinking you could even just like paint it with a metallic type paint. That would kind of like hide some of those ridges that you get with 3D printing, and then
Yeah.
add like a shimmer or sparkle to make it look a little more metal. But I really liked your picture with the little Charlie Brown dude. There was another one that was like an artist's rendition of like it had some flowers and like part of the mask was gone. I really liked that like take on it. So something in particular you could do if you choose to 3D print is you could add like little designs like that
yeah,
within it. It might be hard to do in SolidWorks, probably. But like that's something is you could put your own spin on it as well and add like little parts that are more you in it instead of it just being the gladiator.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something I kind of alluded to. Is like I don't know if that means I'm gonna paint it or like, yeah, like I do like how the flowers look, and I think if like I added something like that, I don't know, but yeah, no, I think 3D printing definitely opens up a little more rather than like, because that's kind of sky's the limit. Whereas if I buy it, it's everything has to be like negative or like extra added onto it, and it might not look as natural. So yeah.
Right, yeah.
I will say, if you do end up painting it with metallic paint, that will probably like emphasize the ridges unless you cover it first with some sort of like primer. Like if you did, like I know that people fill walls with like something, plaster or
Spackle or
something. Yeah,
something,
spackle. If you like spackled it, maybe that would work. But I don't know how that would stick to the plastic. Something like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, it probably depends more so on the paint because yeah, with like metallic paint, like shadows show a little easier. So if it catches light on it,
That's true.
and it'll be pretty well lit. So the ridges
You
might be
could like
coming.
use a modeling clay or something too to just like put a layer on the outside or something.
Yeah,
and then
maybe
paint that.
maybe use like the 3D printing is more of like a frame rather than like the thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna have to be some like viscous liquid type thing that I just kind of coat it in or dip it in. Yeah, I don't know. I might have to play around with that. We'll see.
Okay, does anyone from the audience have mutual questions? I kind of have a question. How exactly were you planning on doing the levitating part? Because I know you mentioned that like there's like a opposing magnet on the bottom, an attracting magnet on the top, but what's keeping it centered? Kind of when they kind of just pop off.
Well, so I just want to make sure, like, so it's like there you have like the north in the base, and then you have the south in like the mask itself. Usually, like it's supposed to be kind of like free turning. I might have to look more into how they do it, but I think it's just the magnet's strong enough that it keeps it like, it just keeps them aligned. It also might be that the surface area of the magnet's a little larger, so that, it's not like you have one tiny point that it has to stay like within to do it. Yeah, I don't really have a great answer because it's definitely something I'm gonna have to mess around with, because sadly I did not choose a shape that, conforms to this very well, but I do think I can pull it off somehow. It's just a matter of how is the question. I'll probably just have to get a little creative. It might be like I have to like add another like surface or a layer, simply for it, but we'll see. I might pivot away from magnets. We'll see.
Yeah, that seems quite complicated because I know like as like a little kid, I've had magnets and I've tried to do the whole balancing thing. And usually it like jumps off the side, because you're opposing it too strong, or like clicks to the top.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would work. It seems like they use some sort of electromagnet, but
Yeah, I need to
those
look
are quite
more.
expensive.
Yeah, I need to look more into the engineering because I know most of it is you just take a shoe or like you put a magnet in the shoe. Like there's nothing special there. Um, so yeah, I like the idea, but who knows how crazy it is. And I think I can achieve the levitating effect with maybe something other than a magnet, but we'll see.
True. I would say if you're thinking of buying something, that might be something that would make this project a lot easier for you if you wanted to buy it.
Yeah, I guess I could take, no, I don't know. Yeah, I need to look more into like the engineering behind that though.
I had a question about like your display case in general. Like I know you said you were gonna get acrylic and then like 3D print a base in the top. But were you gonna do like a cool shape like the one they had the levitating foot or the levitating shoe with was like that sort of curved top and bottom
Yeah.
like open, or were you thinking of more like a completely enclosed case with acrylic on all sides?
Yeah, I mean, I think as it sits now, probably more like enclosed, just like a square. Because I think that caters more towards the like museum clean look. I do like how like because a lot of those like levitating sneaker things, it's like very like circular, which lends itself really well to like good lighting. But I think to like cater more towards like the museum, like I think I was just gonna do a box. Because I thought it would create like more of an interesting look if it's, you know, just like this single thing in a box rather than just like floating around and then could knock it off. So
Yeah, nice.
Any more neutral questions? Cool. Then we'll move on to permissive opinions if anyone has any.
I have one for the levitating effect part.
go for it.
So I think you can, in case you're not able to get the actual levitating effect, and maybe you can go for something that looks like levitating. So for example, if you've seen those lamps that have two magnets, one attached to the top with a thread and the other one attached to the bottom, and then you get those magnets close to each other and they just kind of float in the air. They're not actually touching, but they just float in the air and the lamp turns on. So maybe you can hang the top of the mask using a very thin thread, like those transparent threads. I'm not sure what the material exactly is for that. And then just have a magnet at the bottom, a really strong magnet. So it's kind of hanging from a thread, but not actually levitating. But if you have this transparent thread there, it can give a levitating effect.
Yeah, I totally forgot those existed. I just looked one up. So yeah, thanks for reminding me. It might have to be something like that by the end. I think it's gonna be a lot of trial and error, honestly. But yeah, that's a good idea.
I had a thought about it's more an idea than an opinion.
Go for
But
it.
I know you're using LEDs to get that cool like illuminating effect. You could add like maybe like a mirrored surface on like
Yeah.
the top and bottom side to get, and then add the LEDs and get like an even more illuminating effect, sort of, and you get like the reflection of the two. It could almost look like the top and the bottom are like not there, sort of.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and I think that would, because that would reflect light and then it would, you know, have a cool effect on looking inside. Yeah, I do like that. That's probably will be something like if I have time, I'll do it. Yeah, I like that. I think I just don't know how to get custom sized glass. I guess you don't have to use like actual mirrors. You can like use reflective material. Yeah, I could definitely see myself doing that, assuming I have enough time. Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone else have any last questions or comments?
Yeah, just a quick premise opinion about the shoes.
Go for it.
I think it's a cool idea, but I just had a quick question before. I missed it, but like, what exactly were you thinking of doing with it again?
I just got inspired by the shoe thing because I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever seen those, but they're like levitate and kind of like free spin
Mm,
without like being held up by anything. So I was just trying to take that idea and like
right,
have the mask do that, which doesn't lend itself as well as a shoe, but
right.
technology is there, I guess. So
But yeah, I think if you figure it out, I think it would definitely, I don't know, it might be my favorite idea so far that I've heard of.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Sorry guys, I got a great idea. We'll see if I can actually fucking build it. Yeah, thank you all for what you have.
I had a question for everyone. If it's okay, I want to present on Wednesday. I don't know
We
who else.
just quickly stop the recording.
Oh, okay, sorry.